Okay, so this is the O Frankie. This is a fully restored PT boat from World War II. This served in the Eastern, the war in Europe, the Mediterranean, English Channel area. So these things were PT boats operated on speed, big punch, and maneuverability and low profile. Didn't have a whole lot of armor on them at all. As you can see here, they got wood, got metal struts, but there's wood there. Wood here, metal right at the bottom, metal on the sides for the superstructure. It had metal throughout it, but there's a lot of wood in here too. So the low profile, the smaller size, and the speed made it hard to hit, and it had a lot of firepower. Let's go over these bad boys. So, 2 dual Madus. Ooh, that'll tear up anything you can think of. Even bigger rounds up front. Look at that thing. Those are air intake valves here. So the engines are all back here. This particular model had four torpedoes, and this is what made the PT boat so dangerous. So they would get within about 1,000 feet. The closer the better. Pull the handle, these things would the propellers would start spinning. Get in close, line of sight, straight on, drop the torpedo, it goes shooting down. A torpedo takes out a capital ship. It hits below the water line. It's got about a 600-pound Torpex. This is a Mark 8 torpedo. Obviously, the ones we're going to be using in the future are going to have twice the punch. I still think they should be dead launched myself. But the PT boat's going to make a comeback in the swarm technology of the future. Here's a bumpers on the back. See that thing there? That's what's called a smoker. So these things would lay down smoke for big ships or to cover their trail so they couldn't be hit. They would also have depth charges. There you see a depth charge dropper. They would have several extra depth charges they could throw over. That's the torpedo thing, but they would have these depth charges here they could drop over to actually take out subs also. The bumpers here on the back. You're throwing out big shells and a lot. You can throw out a lot with the bumpers. 40 millimeter bumpers, 120 rounds a minute. Each of these clips weigh about 19 pounds. The range is 11,000 yards. You know, that's it. And the anti-aircraft sealant, it could fire an aircraft up to 7,000 feet, a little over 7,000 feet. Now I want to talk about the return of the PT boat. So the future of warfare is going to be swarm technology, and in the ocean it's going to be built around a frame like this. So they're going to have both manned and unmanned PT boats in the future. The unmanned ones are going to have even a lower profile. They'll still have a mast, they'll have multiple masts, but they'll have an AI on board also. There'll also be a limited amount of human interaction. So if need be, there could be a couple of humans on board to operate in case of some specialized EMP that can overcome the normal EMP protections which will be put in. And here's a good back view of the Dual 50s here. The Madu, proven technology in battle. These things, Dual 50s will chew up stuff like cotton candy. So the low the lower profile without having, remember, a good 20% of this PT boat is used to support the physical lives of sailors. The engines now are more efficient. They'll probably be hydrogen fuel cells, so they'll have a very low profile. They'll be about the same width, but the profile will be much lower. It'll probably be right here. You'll literally just have the gun sticking out, and then the one mast. But they'll be autonomous, so they won't even need input. But like I said, again, they will have redundancy where they will have input. So the new PT boats, 2 generations from now, will probably have 4 torpedoes. They'll have the MADU, but they'll be operated by AIs. Be much more accurate. They'll probably have the old Vulcan, the ones you saw in the back of B-52s, the Vulcan cannon. That'll probably be up there. It'll be a version of it, but it'll be the electronic Vulcan, where they just load the everything will be a magnetic electronic bullets, so it'll look like the Vulcan cannon, but each of those will have like a yard of the rounds, and as electricity goes through the barrel, it strikes. The first one goes off, and then the second and the third, and you can fire. There's a thing called Metal Storm that can fire 1 million rounds a minute. Now you don't need that much when you're hitting something with an AI. It's going to be much more accurate, more than any human. It could react faster and everything else. There will also be nanotechnology being used. The the Russians' new tank, the Armida, is the first of the 5th generation tanks, and it's got a I call it squid clouds. So on the battlefield, the tank battlefield, they use shaped charges to get through the ceramics and these multiple layered new Hypertech armor. So you use a shaped charge to get into it. Well, they can bring out these black clouds that have nanoparticles that confuse. Not only are they hot, physically warm to set off infrared, but inside there's nanoparticles, and it confuses the shaped charge or the technology behind the shaped charge where they can't actually hit the tank. So it pulls it off the target, and a shaped charge has to actually hit metal on metal, so the shaped charge can take out, if the shaped charge goes off, if it's on a timer, or if it just senses wrong and it blows up a foot before it actually hits metal, it won't do hardly any damage. So the battlefield of the future is going to be all swarm technology. There'll be nanobots and drones everywhere, all above these PT boats. They'll have their own nanobots that'll come out, where normally you would have the crew. You're going to have a bunch of these drones that come out, and they're constantly giving information. They're constantly dropping nanobot rain to confuse the enemy, to obfuscate their ship. So the anti-ship technology that'll be here, there'll be a drone probably the size of that case right there. As this ship's going in harm's way, these 2 drones will come out, and they'll drop nanoparticles like a rain ahead of where the ship is, and it'll confuse the radar. It'll confuse the thermal imaging, because these little nanoparticles, as they come down, they won't come straight down because they're so light. They'll have just enough charge. They're only there to last, so their power will all be expended as it's coming down, but it'll create an artificial heat signature to cover the PT boats of the future. And that's going to happen in the battlefield of the future too, for infantry. So there'll be drones flying everywhere, dropping nanoparticles to both obfuscate and create false images for the incoming smart weapons that are going to try to take our next generation, or the 2 generations of PT boats in the future. but the nanobot rain and swarm technology is going to dominate the battlefields of the future. But anyway, this is the framework for this was set in the past with a PT boat. Tried and true technology. Thank you, I'm out.